Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Saturday, January 18th, 2025. Coming at you with a weekend update, also to make a couple of channel announcements. But first, we'll go ahead and get started with the space weather news. Right now, our solar wind speeds are a little elevated at 491.7 kilometers per second with a density of 2.02. Sunspot number 149, our last broadcast that we had sunspot number 85, so we have seen an increase of sunspot activity. And just where we were talking about, which all this stuff here on the western side is turning away from Earth, and then you see all the facula here with the sunspots, and there are some flares happening too, but these are only M-class flares, so nothing to be too alarmed about. But we suspected some activity around the eastern limb that would spark up sunspot numbers once again. But how long would this burst of activity last, and how much stronger does it get? And that's also another indication of how much more intensity we actually have for this current solar maximum. Give me a moment here, folks. I wanted to show you something that we haven't reported on in quite some time. All right, it's being really difficult. Wow. I can finally have it. So while folks are shuffling in, I did want to make a report today on TSI. We had a subscriber comment in the comment section on where I could find this information. And also, it's not like it doesn't give us the exact, but you pretty much have to read the chart. And we'll go to that here just in a minute. But TSI to report today is at 1363.0 or slightly above that. In fact, it probably looks like a 1363.1. I'll show you the graphic here in a minute. But yeah, I want to thank our subscriber for pointing us in the right direction. And it also is interesting to see where the TSI shows the peak and shows that we are also turning the bend and heading towards weaker TSI. KP is at 2 right now with a 24-hour max of a 2. So low KPs, but nothing in the threat of seismic activity or triggering any seismic activity at this time. Again, there's still a chance from the flares that we might get that it could ring the bell, so to speak, when it hits our magnetosphere and create seismic activity. Cosmic radiation dosage rates are at negative 6.9%. It dropped about 0.7% over the last 48 hours. Still, cosmic radiation dosage rates should be negative in the double digits by now at this point. So the fact that we're seeing moderate cosmic radiation dosage rates and not a stronger reading that we are being protected by a strong magnetosphere, and that is obvious. It's not happening. 25% chance of X-class flares, but I'm going to ride my money on M-class flares. This could be a flary weekend, according to spaceweather.com. Yesterday's M7.4 class solar flare could be the opening salvo of a flary weekend. 3 sunspots, 3959, 3961, and AR 3964, facing Earth, have unstable magnetic fields. NOAA forecasters estimate a 70% chance of M-class flares and a 30% chance of X-class flares on January 18th. And judging on where we are as far as what time it is of the evening, I suspect that the M-class flares are going to be the higher risk here moving forward. So, with that being said, we're starting to see weaker solar flares. The chances of severe solar flares are starting to go towards the downside, even though we're still coming down from the maximum. In other words, we still have more maximum conditions present right now than we do at minimum. Obviously, the maximum just reaching its peak, excuse me, late 2024, and now starting to show signs of declining activity on our star. Let's go ahead and take a look. A couple space weather tools here. Here we are, according to our instruments on our space weather page. This is the current planetary lineup. You may remember Earth being right here in the middle. That began the big tug back in October. And since that alignment, we have seen temperatures drop. Now, we are in an interesting lineup right now as it speaks. And we are going to look to the skies on January 25th to also see a rare alignment where all the planets will be lined up across the sky with the moon and other planets. Another backyard event that we could see here. Earlier this month, we had the Mars occultation, and now we are going to be waiting for the January 25th. It is the 18th, so that'll be this Thursday. No, wait, 25th is Saturday. My apologies. So next Saturday, we should be seeing something pretty special in that sky. Meanwhile, I believe that this particular planetary alignment may have something to do with recent activity in volcanic and earthquake activity. Here's a look at what the sun looks like as far as the sunspot activity. It's all on the eastern hemisphere, so we can speak to that. The western side stuff is moving away from us. That coronal hole it's not as wide as it once was when it first formed, so it's still a chance to create a small 6.2 or higher or earthquake still on the table, but that coronal hole has shrunk. Let's get a live look out at Kilauea. It's going off again. And the last time we had a major eruption from Kilauea was in, I believe, May of 2019. Now that was coming out of a maximum and heading into the beginning of a minimum. I can't say that we're in the beginning of a minimum, but we're definitely past the peak, and solar activity is starting to decline. And the reason why I'm kind of bringing this attention to volcanic action is because of this right here. Right now, currently, we have near 60. Well, if you add in the minor activity, we have 71 or more volcanoes erupting or in action right now as we speak. So estimated around 35 to 38 volcanoes in eruption as we speak, and there are about 40 others that are in minor activity. So lots to be looking at as we start to see the decrease in solar activity slightly. We are now seeing an uptick in volcanic eruptions. And here is the TSI data. Look at the obvious parts where we saw the peak of TSI over 24. Look at this. There's our peak. You're starting to see readings coming down on the other side. There is a clear indication that we've been through the maximum, ramped it up, got through the maximum, got to the peak. Now we're starting to trend it down, which could take several more months. But the declination of solar output is beginning, and our TSI is proving that. In fact, during the peak of the TSI, we almost hit 1364 squared watts per meter. Now, even 1 squared watt per meter makes a big difference. And you have to, again, this is the other part of why we had such warmer temperatures. I believe the Tonga volcano set off a chain of events that created this anomaly of warming. And when we talked to Professor David Dilley on Monday morning, 10 a.m., by the way, Eastern Time, he's going to show us a lot of evidence and cycles that we've gone through that happen all the time. More proof that the planet and its climate is going to do what it does all of its history. Very, very consistent. It's not an exact copy of the prior cycle, but you can see the cycles. And just like right here, the sun is indicating that TSI is now beginning to drop once again. Our current reading of TSI is to the right. I'll move my arrow. Actually, this is a more precise down here at the bottom. And I can read you that. I know that's probably hard to see on your computer, but on my computer, right now, TSI is at 1363.1 watts per square meter. And their peak was at 1364 watts per square meter. So already has dropped 1 watt per square meter. Already. And we haven't even gotten close to the minimum yet. So again, when we were in minimum situations, we were at 1361.5 and lower, but for the average, we were 3 watts per square meter lower than what we are today because of where we are in the maximum. But again, more proof that we are seeing the solar output starting to head towards the lower side now. This could be our indication that we are running through the max as we speak. Again, this is a more shorter range of TSI. You can see it's slowly heading in a downward trend, very slowly. Nothing drastic at this point, but it is indicating to us that we've seen our peak and we're just beginning our declination of solar activity from this peak in solar cycle 25. In other words, we're at least a year early on the peak, according to NOAA forecasters and other shills out there that disqualify the sun for any kind of climate related activities. Supposedly the peak was supposed to happen during 25, in the middle of 25. And here we are at the very beginning of 25. We're past the peak. In fact, by the middle of 25, we're going to notice a lot less solar activity. It'll be relevant and obvious that we are heading into our minimum way earlier than predicted. Take a look at our weather map. Right now, the big story across the United States is all the winter weather and the temperatures, right? Let's go over to watchers real quick as they report. A developing winter storm will bring snowfall from West Virginia to southern New England beginning on the morning of Sunday, January 19, 2025. The heaviest snowfall is expected north and west of the Interstate 95 corridor, while 1 to 6 inches of snow accumulation from northern Maryland through Boston. Localized higher totals may occur in eastern Maine. Storm looks like it could be just a coastal area, not so much inland for New Yorkers or Vermont and parts of Massachusetts. Forecast totals in the range of 3 to 6 inches across northern Maryland to Boston. Areas north and west of I-95 can expect anywhere from 4 to 12 inches of snow, while eastern Maine may see higher amounts of exceeding of over a foot out there. On top of that, we have bitterly cold air to follow in the storm's wake, with temperatures around 15 to 25 degrees below normal from Wednesday or Monday through Wednesday. Roadways will become icy and will increase travel risks. Winter storm severity levels indicate moderate to hazardous travel conditions through Monday. Uncertainty remains regarding the exact location of the heaviest snowfall. So in other words, if you're anywhere in this map here where it is in the yellow, you could possibly see an expansion of that area, maybe moving up a little bit more inland, a little more northerly here. Parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York. So we'll keep our eyes. They don't know where the heaviest snow track could be. It could shift to the west. It could shift to the east. So if you live in this area right here, Just stay prepared out there, folks. We could see a big one out there. Although 12 to 15 inches is not really a big one for the Northeast. That's kind of a child's play for them. We've seen 33 inches, 50 inches. It gets pretty ridiculous out here during the wintertime. Winter storm severity levels indicate moderate to hazardous travel conditions through Monday. A second winter storm is expected to impact deep south beginning on Monday night, bringing snow, freezing rain, and travel disruptions from eastern Texans to the southeast, or through the southeast, I should say. So we got lots of winter weather coming here for the northeast, and then here's that second storm that's coming across the south. Can you believe that? High confidence of disruptions of traffic and travel because of the wind chills, the temperatures, the ice, the snow in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, the middle of Georgia, up through South Carolina, and the coast of North Carolina, folks. What a historic storm here for the month of January. Is this the last of it? Let's take a look. Here's what we can tell you right now, what the models are saying for the next several days. We always can take it for a grain of salt for the first 4 to 5 days, but after that, it's kind of reaching. Weather patterns have been very difficult to follow this year. But here's that minor disruption coming through. And then on Sunday, January 19th, is when another low pressure system will set up across the coast. And the heaviest snow in this model run still appears to be in southern New York, more inland of Connecticut, Maryland. Could see some snow and ice transition. Boston, Connecticut, and parts of New Hampshire and Vermont, all looking to get in on the snow. The window of 1 to 6 inches is probably the most appropriate prediction, just because this system could still trek a little bit more north, and then we're talking about heavy snow through the capital region of New York, not just the southern part. But snow hanging on throughout New England through into early Monday and tapering down finally by midday Monday. Some lake effect out there for you in western New York, and continuing western New York. You'll see lake effect snows up in Lake Ontario as well. That will continue into Tuesday, January 21st. And then we have another coastal system that's starting as snow on Wednesday, January 22nd. So Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. This is the storm we were talking about. Not as potent as that high pressure will push this system off into the Atlantic. And if that is what is really going to happen, this high pressure system coming down from Canada, because it's bringing in much, much colder air, it should push that system into the Atlantic. But some models are suggesting that this storm gets its act together and is showing at least the potential of a nor'easter here in the northeast of the United States. Lots of high pressure, some clippers coming through into New York, another system forming across the Midwest. Again, this is January 27th, way too far out, but the models are suggesting that there will be rounds of winter weather towards the end of the month and much colder air to follow with it. That one actually looks pretty hateful, if you ask me. And we'll end the month with some snow showers, cold air still sticking around the Great Lakes and in the Northeast. And then they are showing another clipper system at the end of the month. February may start off a little bit warmer than what we've seen in January, but there's another cold front. And let's look at the temperature side of this. We see that giant blob of Arctic air making its way through the United States by Monday, January 20th. It's reaching as far down as single digits for New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, parts of the central Midwest. This cold air is going to be persistent and continuing through the week. And then a slight warm up in the south, as you see here on January 23rd. This could be our mid-January thaw, but that cold air reaches pretty south on the 24th into the 25th. So if that system does get its act together in the Atlantic, that could be a nor'easter, and it could be a big one too as well. We'll keep our eyes on that. But plenty of polar air still to be distributed across the United States. And as we get to the end of January, you can see that another trough is coming across the United States, keeping temperatures very, very cold, and more Arctic cold is predicted to at least touch the Great Lakes. Now, it looks like another warm-up at the end of the month could be on the way. Our January thaw carrying over into February. But here at the end of this run, you can see more of that polar air is starting to make its way back south. And by the time we get to the 3rd, 4th day of February, the Northeast and the Northern Plains will be once again affected by cold Arctic air. But I will agree that the models here show a little bit of relief here in the South after all this snowy and cold weather that we're getting here for the next 2 weeks. It does look pretty good for the South, as you guys will be back in spring-like conditions in the South, the deep South, Texas in the mid-70s, parts of the Panhandle, 79 degrees of Florida, mid-60s throughout Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama also display mid-60s, closer to the 70s in Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, but still plenty of cold air to come for the weeks ahead. So it just depends how this pattern breaks right now. And it does look like January is going to stay pretty cold. A chance of another thaw in February, but that's also looks like it could be followed with another blast of Arctic air, perhaps the last one of the season. Let's hope anyway, right? Mid-February, that would be great. All right, so like I told you guys earlier, let's show you the snowfall totals first through the 20th. That's this weekend, and then this other system that could be here on the 25th. Again, not showing any confidence in that storm. And really, typical January snow. Nothing too crazy, nothing amazing. A lot in the northern plain states, the Michigan area, parts of northern Ohio, into western New York and the north country of New York, and most of the parts of Vermont and New Hampshire could see over a foot to 20 inches of snow from now until February 3rd. That's not bad for this part of the country this time of year. So one thing that's going to remain constant is the cold, but not necessarily all the winter weathery stuff that we could be expecting. But definitely watching these two storms, one this weekend and then one again on the 25th. So, and with that said, I want to make sure that everybody hears that on Sunday, tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we are having a special guest, Lee Wheelbarger, will be joining the Grand Solar Minimum channel to have a discussion on the current status of solar activity and the climate. And then don't miss this special airing of a live interview with Professor David Dilley. You guys might remember him back 2018. We interviewed him. He had some predictions that came up that came true. He is going to be joining us on Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time to discuss also predictions that have been made that are coming to truth. And also, he's going to show us multiple cycle charts that are all lining up that the cooling cycle is inevitable and that there's nothing that's going to stop it. That just like there's nothing that's going to stop the warming cycles that we have. Nothing will stop either of them. Again, we got Lee Wheelbarger tomorrow at 1, Sunday, January 19th. And then on January 20th, Monday morning at 10 a.m., we will discuss the climate once again with Professor David Dilley. Want to shout out a few people out in the chat tonight. Knife Collector, good to have you. Mari, my wife, good to see her in the chat tonight. She's been busy, but was able to make the show, so good stuff there. Wood Spirit, 98, good to see you, sir. Jesse Vorwald, Melody, also nice to see you in the chat as well. Where's Wendy? Seeing some old faces and some new ones as well. I'm convinced we have some of the loyalist fans out there in the YouTube land when it comes to that. So you're here at the right Grand Solar Minimum News channel, right here. And until tomorrow at 1 o'clock, everybody have a great night. We will talk soon. Take care.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.